Welcome back to another edition of Q2 Project Management. I'm Kurt Bell, your Q2 Project Manager for today, and this is the process series of lessons on the Q2 Project Management methodology in use at RCIT and other county agencies. In this series, we're exploring the various steps of the 10-step process that we use to ensure that we truly explore the business case, to understand what the customer's problem is that they need to have solved, and so that we can really make a good determination of what the possible solutions might be. We'll then lay out what those solutions are with a recommendation, and then when the customer selects an option, and sometimes they will select to not go forward because maybe in our exploration we've discovered that not having the project at all might be an option as well. But if they do choose to have one of the options, then we'll go ahead and lay out the details of the plan, and that is called the project plan. And I can see, Omar, I can see you joining on Skype right now. Can you see me waving at you?
Yep. Well, hold on. I'm trying to get my mute on so I don't get feedback.
All right. And so for those of you who are watching this video, these lessons are held live here at RCIC on 14th Street in downtown Riverside every Tuesday and Thursday. This series is on Thursdays. You can join us if you like. Just come on down to RCIC and come on up to the 4th floor. We're in the think tank room. Otherwise, and go to our homepage as well. We can find out more details to make sure you know to exactly go which room. You can find these lessons in video format on our website. And with that, let's go ahead and launch into it. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the document that we're going to be exploring, and that is the Phased Project Charter. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way up to the top and real briefly just recap what we did last week, and then we're going to jump right into it. So if you didn't see last week, if you weren't here for last week's video, this one will be a little bit out of context, so I'll try to bring you up to speed. The Phased Project Charter, again, is our contract for the project. 3 steps: business case, project proposal, project plan. The business case is the problem. The proposal lists the one or more options. And the plan is how we're going to actually execute the selected option. In last week's lesson, we explored the business case for the Department of Social Services Windows 10 project. This is an upgrade of the department's operating systems from Windows 7 and Windows 8.1 to Windows 10. Now this was done in 3 phases, called the C4 phase, the CWS-CMS phase, and then the 3rd phase is called just the DPSS phase. DPSS stands for Department of Public Social Services. And this is the 3rd and last phase. So we just call it Windows 10 DPSS, that's our code. And we dealt with this project because it was so enormous, encompassing almost 3 years, we chunked it out into 3 separate projects, and we learned from every iteration. And so hopefully this document is the cleanest of the 3. There's 3 charters like this, and there we go. Scrolling on down, you'll find our document modification section, and if you look at the bottom there, 8/14/18 final document reviewed with Sherry Gill and the RCIT lead, document approved and signed. That means this is the completed charter. If we were to look at the PDF version, we'd see signatures at the bottom. But let's scroll on down a little further. Every time we make a modification, we note that modification in the modification log. This is the business case. If you don't know what a business case is, check last week's video. That will explain it. We're going to move really quickly through it, but again, it just describes the problem. And I don't need to read it right now, because when I get to the proposal, I'm going to reiterate the problem in different words. Let's move on down. We identify the problem, who it affects, why it affects them, and what a successful solution would look like. A little further down, this was the end of last week's lesson, and now we are 5 minutes in. We have 25 minutes, so let's jump into the heart of this thing. And don't hesitate to ask questions if you have any. I know I'll just go on and on otherwise. Scrolling on down, we are now into section B, the project proposal. Now, when I build these documents with my customers, and particularly my sponsors, I am very careful. These are not token efforts. The wording and the language and the construction of this document is very important for making sure everybody's in agreement. So what I do is I read the document to my customers. It's awkward sometimes reading documents like this to executives or deputies or assistant directors, but they appreciate it in the end when we're all in agreement. So I'm going to go ahead and read now the project vision. This is After I got the business case, and I knew what the problem was, I went back to my desk and I thought about it and I thought about it. How can I restate this as a vision? Here we go. I'll stop. All good project managers pause at the end of every paragraph to answer any questions. Here we go. Project vision. The Department of Public Social Services has already successfully completed 2 of 3 phases in the Windows 10 upgrade project. The first phase upgraded C4 workstations, while Phase 2 addressed workstations in use with CWS CMS as well as coexistence. You don't need to worry about that, what that means. The last phase of this project will upgrade all remaining DPSS workstations which were not upgraded during Phase 1 and 2. The final phase of this project will simply be called Windows DPSS. Juan, could you throw that back at me? What do you think I'm saying in this?
You're seeing what the databases that are affected, giving it a label, and you're in a nutshell, you're giving what the project is designed to do. It's designed to upgrade the C4 databases as well as CWS and CMS.
When you use database, I think you mean network in those cases. Yes,
right.
That's right, those networks. And what does it tell us anything about the past? Jeff, is there any history lesson in this?
Yeah, it tells you that the previous 2 phases were completed.
That's right.
This is the 3rd phase.
That's right. And David, what are we going to call this last phase?
Windows 10 DPSS.
Just that. That's right. Here we go. Thank you, guys. A decision was made by DPSS to place the Windows 10 DPSS project on hold after Phase 2 was complete. This was done in order to allow DPSS and RCIT to plan and execute a hardware deployment and refresh project, which is scheduled to complete by October 31st, 2018. DPSS Assets, capital A, has assessed that there will be 1,960 workstations requiring upgrade as of January 1st, 2019. Anyone want to take a stab at why I included that paragraph?
They basically are saying that they had to upgrade their hardware before you could do the Windows 10.
Precisely. And it also explains why there was a gap between the 2nd and the 3rd phases of the project. We'd completed Phase 1, we went right on to Phase 2, and when we got near the end of Phase 2, customer said, can you guys hold off for a while? We got something we need to do, and then you can start again. And that explains why that was done, exactly. Okay, now, next, solution recommendation. Stage deployment. Notice that that's a heading 2, right? So we've got another section here. Now, in this particular phase project charter, we only have one recommendation. That's because this is our 3rd iteration. We know what we're going to do, right? We decided what we were going to do almost 2 years before this. We're just telling them, here's what it is, right? If you have a project where there may be 2 or 3 or 4 options, you'll list them. You'll say option 1, solution 1. Solution 2, Solution 3. One of those will be the recommended solution. Usually that's put up at the top. So that gives our customer a chance to see that, hey, RCIT did their due diligence. They weren't just trying to find something to solve this. They came up with a bunch of options. And they gave us all the reasons why this one's the best one. Here we go. Solution recommendation, titled Staged Deployment. RCIT and DPSS will work together to plan and schedule site visits for the purpose of upgrading and training all eligible workstations. Parentheses, certification is pending, close parentheses, and personnel who have not yet been upgraded to Windows 10. RCIT will work with the division coordinators on the schedule and then communicate with site coordinators per the communication plan. Omar, what do you think that's telling us? You out there? No? Okay. Let's see. How about Jeff? What do you think that's telling us?
No, go ahead, sir.
Oh yeah. What do you think, Omar? What's that? I'm calling on you. What do you think that? If you heard that last paragraph, what do you think that tells us?
Basically, that we're making sure that everyone's kind of knowing that there's going to be their communication plan first of all, and that everyone is going to get training and be aware of the upcoming deployment.
Yeah, exactly. The title staged deployment means that we're going to do this in stages, and we're going to have a communication plan to reach out to the the various stages, which are defined as sites, right? We're going to reach out to each of the sites, let them know we're coming, and have a plan of action to engage with them. Did you notice that the eligible workstation is a hyperlink? What do you think? Where do you think that goes? If we were to click on that. Well,
Mine's back to SharePoint.
yeah, and we know that SharePoint's a little bit iffy, but what do you think that list? What does that thing tell us?
It's a list of all the workstations that were eligible for this upgrade.
Let's see if it'll open. I know SharePoint's having a little bit of trouble. Let's see if the document will actually open. That's exactly right. This will tell us the type of hardware that is out there in DPSS land that is eligible, and it may not actually open. So it's just a list of, we got this model Dell, this model HP, this model whatever, and anything that's not in that list, that's not going to get Windows 10. So we had to do that diligence early on. Now I can't actually see that, so here we go. Okay, moving on to a table now, and this is every solution option that we list will have this same table. Okay, first, the pros and the cons. The pros: tried and tested process, hands-on upgrade, instructor-led training. I'm giving a nod to my friend Omar there on that one, because that was you back then. So the tried and tested process, why is it a tried and tested process?
You did it in the first two
Yeah,
phases.
we've already done it twice, right? Hands-on upgrade, that means we're actually going to be there on the site doing it for them, right? And the instructor-led training, thanks to my friend Omar and his team who actually built out, Omar's the gentleman whose team built out all the training that was delivered for the project at that time. Cons: requires field services travel, must accommodate concurrent workload, user downtime. Well, these are pretty obvious. Field services travel in the second largest geographical county in the United States. Traveling to 30-odd sites is a lot of travel, right? Especially when you're going all the way out to Blythe and the state line. Must accommodate concurrent workload. Well, our agency handles a lot of different projects, right? And user downtime, because they're down while we're upgrading their systems. Okay, assumptions and risks. There's a long list. Let me just go through it. Assumptions: resources will be available for the duration of the project. Deployment. I'm going to say it and I'm going to summarize it. What I meant by that: resources will be available for the duration of the project. That means if the field services team promises first 15 personnel for 9 months, I expect there to be 15 personnel for 9 months. Okay, that's a promise. Likewise for the DPSS personnel that are involved. Deployment will be limited to the eligible workstations. That list we were trying to look at before, right? Let's see if that list came up. There it is. There's that list. This is all the hardware that was considered eligible for Win 10. And we have about, what is it, about 20 odd pieces of hardware. Okay? Time to image. Imaging estimates are accurate. That means, and I'm going to make an assumption when I go to the sysadmins, and I say, how long does it take you to image a system? And they're going to say 2 hours. And I'm going to assume into our scheduling that they're right. That's an assumption. Next, DPSS site coordinators will assist with communication. I'm assuming they're going to help us. DPSS division coordinators will assist with scheduling. DPSS users will complete site prep activities. We're going to tell them a list of things to do before we get there. They better do them. Right? DPSS will base Win 10 image and group policies meet DPSS requirements. That's just a technical piece that says that our images will meet DPSS standards. Okay? Existing printers will function with Win 10. Oh, wouldn't that be terrible? Right? What if they had every other printer at the agencies, we get them deployed and they don't work with Windows 10? What a disaster that would be. Okay? Refresh project is complete, including problematic E7470s. That was one piece of hardware. If you look on our hardware list over here, I think the E7470 is right there. See, it was a problematic piece of hardware, and so we needed to make sure that those problems were dealt with first. Okay, LOA will be approved for USTOT. That's a whole bunch of acronyms. So that means they'll be for their overtime that they need for our technical team. They'll have approved overtime if they. I think it's not level of effort. It is. I can't remember what it is. It's an agreement that says authorizes them to get overtime. Can't remember though. Do you remember, Omar? What does LOA stand for?
Nothing that I don't know, but I'll find out for you.
Okay, thank you. Don't worry about it. It's okay, but thanks. Okay, project escalations will occur in a timely manner. That's on me. I'm the project manager. Got to escalate. DPSS hardware refresh will complete on time and fully. GPO settings, disable all macros with notification. So we decided early on, we learned that from the other two versions, that there's one particular little macro setting for notifications, and we would disable that all across the board. Assumptions may be indicative of project risks and will be closely monitored by the project manager. Okay, now, any questions about those assumptions? Boy, I'll tell you, you'll get yourself into trouble if you don't fill this out on your projects. Really take the time to fill this out, because people will come to you later and they say, I didn't know I needed to do that. Oh, really? Well, no, yeah, it's in the contract. Risks and response. 1, resource availability. The response is to mitigate, right? If resources become unavailable, we will go to our sponsors and help get them to fix that problem. Another risk is imaging estimates and schedule, or maybe the estimates are not correct. We'll mitigate that as well. Unreported applications, we'll accept that risk. Does anyone want to take a stab? We have about 12 minutes left. What do you think I mean by that? Unreported applications, and we accept that risk.
Well, first off, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And you're basically are going to say, when we get that, we'll deal with it.
Right, exactly. Early on in the project, part of this project is that we need to know every possible application that needs to run on the operating system, so we can test those applications on the operating system and make sure they work with every hardware type, right? So we put out a call to the agency, DPS, that says, send us your apps, tell us what you use, right? When they sent it to us, we tested it. If they didn't tell us about it, and it doesn't work, so how else other than accept could we handle that risk? We can't. All we can do is accept that that's a risk that might happen. And of course, when it comes up, we'll deal with it then, but early on, we simply accept it. This way, no one will be surprised, right? If the sponsors understand that this could happen, when it does happen, and it did happen, they weren't surprised. They didn't think, oh, RCIT didn't do their due diligence. We did our due diligence. Okay, next, last one. Personnel moves. Mitigate via site coordinators. DPSS never moves, right, Omar?
Oh, no, we stay in the same place all the time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So DPSS, like almost agencies, for an agency that large, they move around a lot, right? And we decided we would mitigate that with the site coordinators. This is just standard operating protocol. Now, a last part over here on the right that you can see is estimated costs included in rate, with the exception of approved LOA. That's for the overtime, right? So DPSS pays RCIT a standard rate for our services, and this project will not cost them anything extra. Okay? Any questions about this piece? Yes, sir.
So LOA stands for Letter of Authorization.
Thank you. Thank you. I should have called that out. I should have spelled that out. Usually it's best practice to spell out an acronym the first time, and I thought I could remember it, but clearly, hashtag 55. Oh, yes, sir, David.
Question. This might be a question in general with this table here, but specifically when you're working out the risks and the response, are you working with the sponsors on this, or who are you including in
Yes.
to build this out?
Initially, when I wrote this document, I brainstormed the possible risks with the team. I said, oh, what's the worst thing that could happen? Tell me everything. All you pessimists, tell me all the terrible things. And then I narrowed it down to this list, right? Then I reviewed this with the sponsor, and I said, how should we handle this? I gave them a recommendation. I filled this out this way. I think we should mitigate, and accept, because I did my BSA work and I analyzed it. Typically, if you do your good analysis, they'll agree with you.
Okay.
That's how I did it. Okay, moving on down to page 8. Ooh, we have a timeline. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Is that showing up okay for you, Omar?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, there we go. Now, we have 4 phases in this timeline. And you'll notice that there's some concurrent activity going on. The planning phase is 4 months, and the engineering phase is 4 months. And that's embarrassing to me that they're overlapping. Okay, but I'll explain that in a second. Then the testing phase which includes IT testing, smoke testing, UAT, and pilot testing, is 6 months. Wow, that was a huge thing. And the deployment phase was 4 months. We spent more time testing than we did deploying. And I'll explain that in just a minute. But can you guys spot anything conspicuously absent in this timeline?
Closure phase?
No, no, you're right. There should be a closure phase in there, right? But there's no dates,
Oh, okay.
right? There's no dates. And that's deliberate, right? All we're doing at this point is we're telling the customer, if you choose to select this option, this is how long it's going to take from the start, right? Assuming that we get all the resources in play, right? Because this ain't a project yet. Excuse my vernacular, right? You know, the reason I said I was a little embarrassed about the planning and the engineering phase, that's always a challenge in fast-moving organizations, is to get the teams to hold off doing their work until we actually get the plan in place. And this was a case of that, right? The building heard we're going to do Windows 10. I started on the planning phase, and the engineer started coding, right? Or sysadmining, whatever it is they do. And that's why it had the overlap.
What's smoke testing?
Good question. So there's a couple of different types of testing that we're going to be doing. IT testing is our just bare bones, the sysadmin, just kind of doing their due diligence. Smoke testing is just a little bit different. It's like when you turn the thing on and you hope that it fires up and no smoke comes out of it.
Okay.
It's literally, it's that simple, right? Make sure does this thing spinning around and it's not cutting anything, right? I don't know where that comes from. And then UAT is the user acceptance test that it fired up, no smoke came out of it. Now we put it in front of a user, and what do you think? And they go, hey, it looks pretty good. They play around with it a little bit. And then pilot testing is then when we say, okay, now you take this thing, user, and go use it in the field for 6 months, and then tell me how it went. And that is 6 months. Now I'm just going to breeze. We only have 6 minutes left, but I'm just going to linger for just a second. That was a huge win in my book, and I think this project is nearly complete, and we're almost over a month ahead of schedule. And I think part of the reason that we're completing a month ahead of schedule was because of that long 6 months. That was not my doing, even though I was the PM on this. I consulted Gartner, a research organization, and I asked them, what we're doing, how much time should we spend testing? Initially, I went to them saying, how about 3 weeks? And they laughed me out of the room. And they gave me a handful of research, and they said, study this, and we think 6 months, given your size. I studied it, I went to the sponsor, and I said, Gartner says we need 6 months, and here's the reason why. And they said, that sounds good to us. And I was like, wow, it worked. And it resulted in a successful project.
So you used a little bit of research to come up with the month.
Yes, that 6 months is a result of Gartner research. And it's not me, it's because I was able to go, if I had just gone to the sponsor on my own and said, I think we need 6 months to do this, and 4 months to deploy, she would have thought, yeah, right. But I went to her and I said, I think so, based on the research that I've been given by Gartner, which is a respected research agency, and it bore fruit. And I will be singing the praises of this example for the rest of my career here. I mean, I don't mean that to say sing the praises for me. I mean, in terms of saying, this is a model of how to make it work. Yeah.
It's worth investment in time.
Try this. Try to get facts to back up your supposition. Okay, moving right along. We're almost done here. 4 minutes left. Project deliverables. The items listed here are the tangible and measurable outcomes that must be produced to successfully complete the project. These are the things the customer expects to receive to consider the project a success. If you were buying a brand new Ford F-150 pickup truck, what you're seeing right now, that's the window sticker. I'm going to get a 6-liter engine, power windows, heated seats, and cruise control. Right? I'm not. You don't see maybe a tow package because it's not on there. Okay, here we go. Here's what we're going to get. 11 things for a project of this size. We're just promising 11 things. 1, hardware count. Identify all remaining DPSS hardware requiring Windows 10 upgrade. Responsibility. DPSS has to do that. Hardware compatibility. Identify Windows 10 incompatible DPSS hardware that needs to be refreshed. RCIT. Refresh just means you're going to have to swap it out with a new computer. Take away the old, give them a new one. 3, software identification. Identify all DPSS software required to run on Windows 10. DPSS and RCIT do that together. That's a joint effort. Software remediation. Remediate or replace Windows 10 incompatible software. DPSS and RCIT. And we did find some software that was incompatible, and DPSS made the effort to go out to the vendor and say, we need the latest copy. That's an example of that. Develop Windows 10 image. We're halfway through. Develop a Windows 10 image for use with this project. RCIT has to do that, of course. Certify Windows 10 image. Certify via Smoke, UA, and I should say UAT, and pilot testing, or UA is okay, user acceptance testing. Certify via Smoke, UA, and pilot testing against all identified hardware. DPSS and RCIT did that together. Why does DPSS have to be involved in the testing?
Well, it's their stuff, their personnel, and
Yeah.
they're the ones using it.
Yeah, what if I've got the XYZ software that does some really special thing? How am I going to test it? I don't know what it does, right? I need someone that uses that software every day to come in and run it for 6 hours or something. Okay, good. Deliver Win 10 training. Nod to Omar. Train all remaining DPSS personnel on Windows 10. That's DPSS's responsibility. Thank you, Omar, for your service. Deploy Win 10. Deploy Win 10 to all remaining identified workstations requiring upgrade. That's us, RCIT. Win 10 supporting services. Identify and ensure functionality of required ancillary services such as VMware. RCIT. Win 10 support. Provide a consistent platform across DPSS for effective support. RCIT. I'm out of breath. That's everything that they're going to get. At the end of the project, Juan mentioned earlier that there's a part of the project called the closure phase. In the closure phase, I bring this same list up and I say, this is all the stuff we promised you'd get. Did you get all this stuff? And I consider the project can close when the customer says, yep, I got all that stuff. I'm happy. Moving on down, out of scope. Identified work that is beyond the current scope of this project. Some people don't use this term the way that I use it. I have a particular meaning for out of scope. Some people think out of scope means work that's not part of the project, right? That's everything. It's, you know, making hamburgers in the cafeteria downstairs is out of scope, right? What I mean by this is work that is needed, that the project depends on, but we're not going to do it. Like maybe a vendor has to do something for us to be able to proceed, and if the vendor doesn't do that, then we're out of luck.
And that part, like, for instance, replacing the hardware before you did this project.
Yes, that was the thing about the break, right? So a dependency was that's exactly number one there, the hardware refresh. No hardware refresh plan for this project. Oh, actually, out of scope, that's slightly different. That's slightly different, but that would be a dependency.
Yeah.
And then the DPSS tablets upgrade. DPSS tablets will not be included in this upgrade project. So in fact, these two things are two things that I called out that we would not do during the project, okay? I used it a little bit differently. These are, because there was nothing besides that one thing that you just pointed out that I should have added. These are two things that I wanted to say. In this project, we're not going to refresh any hardware. Guys, those of you who are on the Windows, who are helping me with the Windows 10 project, remember how we keep saying that we're doing the refresh at the end, that's a cherry on the top? That wasn't within scope because we called it out here, no hardware refresh plan for the project. Okay, and then the tablets, that's because DPS has lots and lots of tablets, and we were worried that they were going to say, how are you going to upgrade the tablets too? No. Okay, we're almost done. Agency responsibilities. I'm going to try to knock this out. The agency will identify division-level leads who will work with RCIT to plan and coordinate every aspect of the project, as well as a primary liaison, Corey T., and backup, Claudia O., to work with the RCIT project managers to help facilitate issue identification, management, and help coordinate deployment within each district office. Additional agency requirements include provide RCIT with space to set up a test lab at identified DPSS facilities for the duration of the test phase. So we're basically saying we're going to need help. We're going to need somebody to help us on your side, DPSS, to be our liaisons, right? And we're also going to need a test lab to do things. We're also, number 2, identification of all custom applications in use at DPSS which must run on Windows 10. Identification of application subject matter experts to assist RCIT in application testing. Assignment of a staff development trainer and backup to develop and deliver training plan and materials. Provide on-site coordinators at each district office to work with the division coordinators to handle scheduling, communications, and issue management. It's not all about RCIT. We need DPSS to do all this. Well, almost there. And I'm not going to rush. Sorry, guys. This session will go just a little over, but I don't want to speed through it. Otherwise, it just becomes nonsense. Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay, very good. So that was DPSS agency responsibilities. Now, what is RCIT going to do? Why am I listing it twice? Well, the other thing is the deliverables. This is a more descriptive. RCIT will utilize individuals in the following roles to complete this project. RCIT executive sponsor, responsible for project success. BRM, that's a business relationship manager, responsible as customer liaison. Project management team, in this project we had 3 of us, 3 project managers, responsible to manage project to completion and project communication plan. RCI team leads, responsible and accountable for team member deliverables. Systems administrators, responsible for image development plan and execution. Field services, responsible to develop plan and execute, responsible for development plan and execution. Help desk, responsible for support readiness plan and execution. Applications developers, responsible for test plan and execution. We're just calling out all the different roles that we'll need. What's conspicuously absent in this list?
Names.
Names, right. Nowhere in this, unless you really already know who they are. For example, I knew that Corey and Claudia up here were going to be, I knew they were going to be involved. I would not list any other names, right? Because you know what? It's going to be up to these leads to decide which of their team members they want to deploy. And this is the last 2 right here. That's the end. Escalating issues. Project issues will be managed and escalated by the assigned RCIT project manager. Issues involving project participants will be escalated first to the participant's supervisor and then to the responsible manager. Risks will be identified in the risk log and shared via weekly project status reports. Why do I say that issues will be escalated to the supervisor and then the manager? Why in that order? I mean, I think
The
it's
supervisor is closer to the actual project, and the manager is only if the supervisor is either unwilling or unable.
exactly, it's just chain of command, right? If I'm not getting any action from the participant, I go to his or her boss. In turn, I go to their boss, right? Where does typically the buck stop in that chain?
Manager.
What?
Supervisor.
There's one more S word. Typically, the last step is the sponsor,
Oh, okay.
right? If it really gets bad, you have to go all the way up to the sponsor, and you're pretty sure you're going to get some action once you get to the sponsor, right? And that's why when I send out my emails, if I'm having trouble with a particular team member, I send out an email. No response? 24 hours later, I send out another email and I CC their supervisor. No response? 24 hours later, another email, CC the manager. And they see where this is going, right?
Yeah.
All right, change management. Any changes to the project scope will be addressed by the project manager via formal change review. The options for managing change requests are to accept the change into the project, which may impact project deliverable dates and costs, or handling the change via a ServiceNow request or separate project. I'm simply saying, if something's going to change, I'm not going to say no necessarily. I'll simply accept it. We have a way to log it. We'll bring it up with the sponsors, and you guys can decide. We'll give them the facts. And that is it. The last section there is section C. So what do you guys think I do? Just last bit, how do I develop this document? What do you think I do to build this document?
Well, you meet with all the people that you listed.
Mm-hmm.
And as a group, you come up with A, what you want to get done, what the risks are, and what the pros and cons are.
Right, exactly. Within the business case to identify the problem.
Sponsor.
Which sponsor?
DPSS.
Yeah, the customer. The customer was telling me all about the problem, right? With some input from RCIT as well, but nominal. It was really the customer telling us the problem. The customer's not involved in this development of this. It's us. I come back, once I get the business case, and Jeff, you're about to go through this, you may have this today. Once the customer's going, that's the problem, then you say, great, I'll be in touch in a week, maybe a week, right? Then you come back to the ranch, and you assemble all the people that you need to know, and you build this document from scratch. And then what do you do once this document is built? And then once you build it, you take it back to all the people that were telling you the stuff, and you say, did I catch that right? Is this right? Is this right? And then once they all say yes, what's the last piece? Nope. Who do you show it to once you've got one?
Sponsor.
The sponsor. Take it back to that sponsor and say, hey, remember that problem you told me about 2 weeks ago that I wrote all that stuff down? Hey, well, I came up with some options for you. Here they are. And guess what? Now you've got, it's not just you saying that, it's the whole team has your back, right? They're all, because you got them to all buy in. And everybody says, yep, that first one at the top, that's the best one. And here's the reason why. You are going to, your project is going to go so much smoother when that happens. That way when you come back and you've got some work for people to do, they already know because they told you what the work was. Okay. Guys, we're 7 minutes over time. I'm sorry, and clearly I need to cut down on my caffeine before these noontime things. So, thank you. Any questions?
No, it's good.
Great. Well, those of you who are watching this on video, feel free to go to our video library. If you're County of Riverside employee, you can go to Core Learning, and you can find these video series listed there, and they are on a certification track. If you complete all of these lessons, if you register for them and you complete them, then you can get a Q2PM certification. If you're not a County of Riverside employee, feel free to review these lessons on our YouTube channel, and we hope they help you out. And until next time, I wish you all the best. I hope your projects run smoothly, and remember to be safe, but not too safe. Oh, actually, our new tagline is, we're not going to say that, we're going to say, because that's from something else, we're going to say this: make every meeting count. Is that what we were going to say? A little different, right?
We're going to change it. It's going to be make every meeting matter.
Make every meeting matter, right? So there will be coffee mugs and hats in an Amazon or a store near you. I don't know. No. Make every. I got him to laugh.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd go for a mug, right, Omar?
All right.
Yeah, I'll go for a mug, of course.
Okay.
Right, well, thank you, everybody. Sorry for making you go late, and make every meeting matter. Oh, that has a better ring to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.